Welcome to Friday.
All right, so we live?
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome back to Buildcast. I'm here with Natalie Roberts and our video producer, Raul Espinosa. And today we've got a special guest. Natalie, why don't you do the honors?
I would love to. Kyle Duran has decided to join us today. And Kyle has a long history in the home building industry, and most currently is the youngest person to be promoted to Vice President of Sales for Meritage Homes.
Wow.
Very cool.
Thank you.
It's okay
Good
to
be
accept
here.
that, Kyle.
It's hard to accept it.
And we came all the way up to Dallas to see you, and I
Appreciate
put on a
that.
coat.
You
I
did.
had to. I don't.
Dallas.
Yeah, it's Dallas. You
We're working on that.
you have to dress up a little bit. You can't wear flip flops and shorts
That's
every
right.
day, right?
We're not as
I
cool
put
as
on
you Austin
heels. It's a
folks.
new day.
Yeah. Well, we're really excited to be here. Of course, this is the big Texas OU weekend as well.
It is.
So
Look 'em, baby.
everybody throw up your horns. All right, that's good.
That was quick.
No, I mean,
Fired
really,
up.
it's good.
It is so good.
Yes. So, Kyle, tell us a little background. You know, wherever you want to start, just tell us, what pushed you towards the industry and where you got your start. And
It all started when I was born. It was rough on a lot of us.
Down by the river?
That's right. So yeah, my career really started with Syntex right out of college. I graduated from UT and went to Syntex Homes and Fox and Jacobs and just started selling. My first assignment was in Killeen, believe it or not. Wow. So that was Harker Heights, Killeen. Learned to sell some homes there. Worked my way back. I was really in Austin for quite most of my career, 10 years, and went from Syntex. Pulte, acquired us. I didn't know how I felt about that. We were going from a volume business to a margin business. So went and did some retail mortgage and wanted to learn that side of the business. Knew at some point I'd like to go into management. And so wanted to figure out what you guys were doing on the back end, how to speak your language. So I did that for a little while, and then I went to Milestone, which is a private builder. There, it was in their inception. We were a little bitty at that time. Then decided I have 3 kids, and my family lives in Dallas. And so I thought, I want to get back to them. And so I came up here and actually went to Pulte, and then my manager went to Meritage. And Meritage is just a wonderful company. Very, it's a big company. They're very good with their talent and really give you a lot of opportunity. If you want to get after it, they'll give you all the rope you need to either hang yourself or
as they say,
or get out of it. So I'm very blessed to be a part of that organization, and we have a lot of fun, sell a lot of homes, and every once in a while we make some money. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure you guys are on a tear right now, right?
We are. I know there's a lot of people today hurting, with COVID, and I say a lot of times it's shameful how well we're doing. The market has just exploded, and we can barely keep up with the demand up here. So it's been great for us. We've actually, every quarter, we've broken records that have never been set before, just over and over and over. So it's been a great year.
So why do you think that is? And I think we've asked just about every guest, because the industry as a whole is doing really well right now, but especially new homes and look, there's been a shortage of housing for years.
Sure.
And I think COVID only hurt that, especially early on when people weren't listing their houses and whatnot. Why do you think new construction is thriving so much right now?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One, you have this millennial buyer that wanted to be in uptown and wanted to be in these urban areas. And as COVID came in, they began to get really frightened about, sharing walls and HVAC systems and filters and being in a tight environment, right? So then the only alternative is to go out. So we've seen a lot of people just want to get out of the city and into I just need some space. On the other side, there's a lot of people that had bought the house that fit their needs. And then now we have to homeschool. Now we've got 2 adults working from home. So I need an extra office. I need some space that we haven't seen. In fact, when we look at our plans for the future, a lot of our plans have changed, and to fit in, some kind of space for your kids, space for mom and dad to work, just because of what we've gone through. So there's people that were really set with their house that began to come into the market, and finally, I'd say, for us, we use spray foam technology. Our houses are sealed. So I just think the market felt really comfortable with, if I'm going to go into a house and shop for a home, I'd rather go shop for a new home.
Fresh and clean.
Because no one's lived in it. Yeah. No one's breathed there. It's not contaminated in any way. So we saw a lot of resale traffic that would normally be, somebody we would compete with come in our door that we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to have. So a lot of different reasons, but
I think on that note too, we had last week, Daryl Patterson was on, and she's an architect who's been in the industry for 30 plus years and covers several different markets. What is the most interesting change that Meritage is looking at making to the floor plans based on the COVID pandemic?
So I would say that workspace for one, getting in multiple workspaces, because
exactly
used to it was just, you have a study, you may have a little nook beside in your kitchen for someone to do your bills or have your laptop. Now it's essential. You really can't have, it's kind of the old days where you had to have a formal dining, or you had to have, if you don't have it, you're dated, and you're not going to be able to meet the need of that customer that's coming in the door that has to, in Dallas, most of our customers are dual income. Everyone's working, and a lot now have been given the opportunity to work from home. So
and in many cases, both spouses,
are there.
They're both home, and my wife and I, we both work from home a lot, and we're blessed that we have very separate
areas.
Workspaces.
And that goes back into the architecture too. We talk about that. Do we want, they don't want to be on top of each other. How do you have 2 different spaces where you can take a Zoom call, or you can take now, from a technology standpoint, used to, everyone wanted a meeting room. Well, now I want a Zoom room. I want a room that has mics.
I haven't heard that yet.
So
it makes sense.
Especially for people that, our executives, and they're just on a call almost all day. They want a space where it's quiet, it's inviting, that kind of thing. So it's really changed, how we look at product development.
That's what I need as a Zoom room. I mean, I don't know how many times. I have it in my office, and I've got bookshelf and all that behind it. So it's aesthetically pleasing, but there's dogs barking, and we live in a very not completely glass, but there's a ton of glass throughout the entire house.
You see the pool boys sometimes walk by.
Yeah, for sure. Dogs bark at everything, and
it's one of the first things. We're on a really serious call, and there's a lot of people on it. The first thing I try to yell is squirrel, because someone's got a dog somewhere that is going to go nuts. I think someone should put a reel together of all the fascinating things that have happened.
I bet they have. But the good thing is it's become the norm though too. So in some ways, yelling squirrel obviously can break the ice, so to speak, and get you talking. So
I think squirrel's an excellent segue into right
now. Where's this going?
I'll own that. I think it's a great segue into how you have had to pivot and how you manage your sales team. We all know that squirrel is a term associated with sales and high energy. I can resonate with that. Brian will attest. I think Raul as well, and Kyle.
Yeah.
How has that changed? How are you working with salespeople in a different capacity?
It's completely different. So it kind of went in stages. So when we first had some of the orders that came from some of the county judges and different markets that we're in, we locked the front door. We were actually by appointment only, sitting in our models. No one, when traditionally all you're trying to do is drive traffic through that door. Now it's like, well, no, you have to have an appointment. You have to. We became medical experts. We can, see if you have a fever. We can ask you lots of questions. But getting customers or even salespeople comfortable with that, it took a little while to do that, and you're getting in people's space. And
was there some hesitancy from your sales staff to go back, or to?
No, it was split. So when you look at salespeople, they love money. And so I think there was a real, I'll be honest, when we first started, we were like, okay, are we going to decrease our sales staff, or what's going to happen? What's the market going to do? So there was a real pause in, okay, let's see what happens. Most of my salespeople, unless there was a few that had maybe a family member or someone that was just at a higher risk. And we just made the accommodation. Most of them have great relationships with their partners, but most of them were like, I want to be in that model. And what they'll tell you is we got more qualified traffic. Their conversion rate went through the roof.
Like you have 2 people show up and one of them signs. So.
Yeah, so they're like, we don't have to spend our afternoon with the person that is really not there to buy. Yeah. They're there to see the model,
retire, and look at the draperies. And
looky loo.
As we started to open the doors, they were kind of like, we kind of like going back to the old ways. So, and then I will tell you, there's different things that we've integrated into the models now. I'm going to mess up the name of it, but it's just like when you go to the restaurant and you take your phone and you scan.
QR codes.
Oh, yeah.
So we're introducing QR codes where customers will literally be able to go in to the model, and instead of having some of those marketing, about foam and some of the things we do, they'll be able to scan it. They're not touching anything. So that's been interesting, and different builders have taken different approaches. I've heard where they don't let you touch the cabinets, or we do that so that we can control the cleaning. So different methods from that. I would say one of the things that was really difficult, she talked about energy. And so we do sales rallies, we do things, and not being in a room and trying to figure out, okay, how do we get the energy up? How do we drive that motivation? And how do we celebrate? We used to do happy hours and all kinds of
virtual
stuff.
Happy hours just aren't the same.
They're not the same now.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, so that was in learning Zoom, right? You had salespeople that on the technology side, they didn't know,
how does mute work? How do you unmute?
Oh yeah.
Well, it's hard enough to get a lead entered. I can imagine getting a Zoom meeting set up had to have been somewhat difficult.
It's like herding cats, or someone's talk. Yeah, you're on mute, bro. Again, so it
happens almost every time. There's more than 5 or 6 people on a call.
There's also when everyone leaves Zoom.
What is that? Why do we wave in Zoom calls?
That's right. You had a whole conversation about why you wave.
Yes.
Is it really that awkward if you just leave the meeting?
Well, it's so different because you don't leave.
It's kind of like leaving without saying bye
as you walk off, but yet you wave when you go out of a Zoom meeting.
And you see 20 people just jazz hands.
Yeah, it's definitely. So I would say on the energy side, and it's worked. We've gotten better at it, right? They're used to it now. So of course now they're like, hey, we don't need to drive to the division office anymore to do the sales meetings. Like, we love this. I'm like, okay. They're like, but we really do need more happy hours.
But you know what? That brings up a really good point, and that's something that we're struggling with or we're working with right now is how do you keep everybody engaged in an environment where you're not connected, locally all the time. And we're doing fitness challenges and stuff like that, and really trying to encourage.
They're doing fitness challenges. I'm not.
No, just like give you eyes.
The entire company is doing. We all have teams, and
that's a great idea.
Ours is Body by Build, but I did not come up with a name, but yeah, I mean the point of it is we're encouraging people to get out and exercise and be healthy and work with teams, work with each other, take video and share all of that stuff and I think that culture piece is really, really important to all these organizations.
It is.
And, and I think that's what we're struggling, all of us right now, is how do we find new, innovative ways to stay connected when we aren't necessarily right across the table.
Yeah, you're so right. And the fitness industry, right, they've done a pretty good job. I know I own a Peloton, but I started
stock.
Yeah,
wish I owned Peloton stock. But I have a fitness instructor. I used to go to her spin class, and so she's gotten on Zoom, and she started to do things from home.
And it was probably really awkward at first, but then you get used to it, and you go, okay, well I can do that.
Well, it's funny. So on my Peloton, unless you're on a live class, they can't see you. right? It's
videotaped.
With her, she reminds you often. I can see you. I know you didn't turn that knob the way I asked you to. Not me, of course, someone else. But
if you're jamming out or doing something embarrassing.
So it's actually made, for quite a better workout for me, because there's like accountability right there.
And that's huge. I mean, in anything you do, having that accountability is really important. And again, I think almost more so now, again, because we're distant, we're remote from each other. So
connection. And I think one of the interesting, and we haven't brought this up on the show yet, but this spurred the thought. Once we get a little further out, I'll be interested in seeing what the statistics are on productivity, and how connection has adapted with that. I find that I've worked from home for 7+ years. I work more because I work from home. I don't lose that drive time, and I might jump back on at 8. So I know for traditional sales, you've got set office hours. I would like to see how much after hours, because they have that initiative. We have a great market. Are they working extra because they have the freedom of working maybe after and not as much in the model?
For sure. So I'm not allowed to talk about it yet, but there are some ideas that will come out of that.
that
we're talking about after hours and what that looks like and how you capture that market. Again, you see companies like Open Door who give you access after hours, and there's a client base out there that just, it's the client that used to run, they jump the trap fence, to avoid you, because I guess we bite. It's that crowd. They're buyers, they want to buy homes. They want to feel comfortable. So we're looking at that and trying to understand, okay, how do we do that and still, capture the conversion numbers and give people, the presentation and be able to differentiate ourselves from another builder. So that's in the works for sure.
I think there's a silver lining with COVID, and I think a lot of the technology, like we were talking about QR codes, I mean, they've been around for a long time. But nobody really used them. And now they're everywhere. So it's pushing stuff forward. And I think for those companies that were somewhat prepared, I mean, we were blessed that we've been doing e-closings for 2-3 years now. But it was one of those things that, and we did it and we perfected it, but people weren't using it. They were scared of it, or they were afraid it was going to make title companies or realtors obsolete. And absolutely not true. But now that it had, at least for a period of time, it became absolutely necessary. And how cool is it? You talk about the after hours. You have first responders that can close on their loan at 4 o'clock in the morning, and anywhere in the world. So it's nice to see the technology finally getting pushed forward.
Yeah, we actually did a really big campaign on just like where you can close, because we were trying to break down that idea of like, just because it's virtual, you don't have to be home either. Like you literally can do whatever you're going to do that day, anywhere. And so we did some pretty funny videos on that. So it was pretty cool.
That's a huge deal. So in Q4 for us, we have a strong Middle Eastern buyer that purchases from us, and their culture, they go home in Q4. And so I can't tell you how many times we've had to organize something at the embassy,
consulates, and
something like that. And so a virtual closing tool would allow them to live their life, right, and be where they need to be,
exactly,
and not disrupt our business or their closing. 100%. And so
and same thing with realtors. I mean, that's one of the things we've done our best to educate the realtors base on, is that just because you're not going to the closing doesn't mean you can't participate. Do the closing with your client in your brand new Meritage home. You can do it right there, throw a party, have a celebration on it. You're absolutely still able to be a part of it if you want. You're just not sitting down at a traditional title company. So having that option is, and look, it's still not, a huge portion of how we close, just because people still kind of prefer the old-fashioned way.
I was going to ask, what's the split on that?
I'm not going to answer that question because I don't know, to be honest. But I think we're still well below 50% of what we do. But I think it's just education, and not every title company will allow it. We've done them in Texas, we've done them in Colorado. Some states are a little bit more difficult, so you have to work out the kinks. And when COVID first hit, it did get it got a little hairy because
Right.
so many people all of a sudden say, oh my gosh, I need to do an e-closing. And they'd never done them before. And we did the first one in the state of Texas and the first one in the state of Colorado. So we work through the lumps, but then all of a sudden you have all these people that are getting on this bandwagon, and the bandwidth issues were horrendous. So it's nice that you can close from your house at 9 o'clock in the morning, but you still have those main hours between 8 and 5 were just packed. So we were trying to get people, hey, you know what? Because there's bandwidth issues, we use Notarize. Do it at 5 o'clock in the morning, or do it at happy hour at 5 o'clock at night, or 6 o'clock at night. So
might be a different outcome at happy hour after a couple of cocktails.
The numbers may be different.
I did want to say to the e-closings, I know we're tracking with builder clients the increase in home buyers that are buying remotely. And it's been a huge pivot in our industry to go fully immersive, to bring the experience to that buyer. Like an example, if one of your Indian buyers is overseas and not able to come back, but they know they're coming in 8 months, we didn't used to, as a home building industry, offer that ability. We were behind the curve. I mean, apartments were ahead of us. You could buy cars off through.
And so we're really excited about your new car. She the whole way up to Dallas.
Did.
Look at you.
I bought my car in 7 minutes, was approved online, and it was delivered in 3 days to my home. Touchless, dropped, done.
That's cool.
We're seeing that transition. So I'm curious if you guys are also seeing buyers buy remotely.
We are. It's funny, especially in March, we sold more homes that were 100% remote, and again, the learning curve of, okay, how do we do that, and how do we protect the buyer and make sure they understand what they're buying, and help them tour. And so some of that's as grassroots as a sales agent just taking their from FaceTime and walking through the home, right, with the customer. Some of it's pretty innovative in terms of, we didn't get the opportunity all the time to see the home that they were in. So show me your home. Show me what you like about your home. Take me for a tour through your home.
I've never heard that before. That's really cool.
Don't tell my competition.
I know. I was like, we'll bleep that part out.
But it really gave.
That's a really innovative way to do it.
It is, and then you've captured that customer, right? If you can, it's no different than we tell them you're just better off in person. The emails, the text messages, we've used all that. They're not as effective. You get someone on FaceTime or on a Teams call, they can hear you, they can see you, they can.
It's more personal, because the normal trend in with a lot of builders, a lot of salespeople is, how many bedrooms do you want? How many square feet do you want? And you're not getting into, okay, well, why are you moving here? Do you have dogs? Do you have kids? Where do you work? And it's all these things. And, it's the whole psychology of it. And if you can really develop that, I need to have Steve Rigby on here one of these days. He wrote a book called Circle Selling. And really that's what it's all about, is getting to know, you kind of have this dance. And it's in anything you do, whether it's home sales or not. But you really get to know the person first. And what their motivation is. You kind of reverse engineer the whole process. And it all kind of leads you back to the house they really need. Instead of what they come in and they may think, well, I should have 2,200 square feet, 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and all that. Well, what do you really need?
It's dry. It's institutionalized in that point, and it doesn't have emotion. Or how does it make you feel? How do you want to feel?
Correct.
When you're living in this house.
And when you add that emotion into it, the price stops to be, it ceases to be the predominant factor. I mean, of course it's important, but you're talking about your home now as opposed to just a house, which is just a commodity like a mortgage. So, but I really love I've never heard that before, in terms of, tell me about your existing home, what you like about it, because when people leave their home, it can be a bittersweet time. This is where you may have raised your kids. It could have been, where you spent the last 5-10 years. So you're kind of linking that to the new home. I mean, that's brilliant.
And in the past, it was you kind of used your imagination. It's like, okay, well, tell me about your living room. Well, it's small, or my closet is small. Well, you didn't sometimes you didn't know exactly what they were talking about, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did you live here in this closet like forever? And then, you know, on the other sense, like, I'm going to change your life right now. Come with me. Let me walk you through, closet. You know, your closet and his and hers. Like, who would have known? Yeah. So it really has opened up my sales team's ability to meet that need, and also validate, hey, we understand this is the living room that you had, you know, 15 Christmases in, and you know, your baby grew up, and he's gone now. He went to UT. So I love it. Now we're going to go get, you know, a loft downtown or whatever, right, you know, what are you, and that's the other thing too. What worked for those 15 years may not work for you know, the future. So it's like, let me help you, you know, show you how you can, it may be an outdoor living area and a big living room and a big kitchen, and that's really all they need, and that's what's most important.
I'm starting to see why he's the youngest VP of sales at Meritage.
Yes. You know, and I think we've had a silent partner in today's podcast, and that's Raul, and we're at a point where I think it, as somebody who just bought, right?
No,
are you
no, not yet. We're going
to. But going to buy.
Yeah.
What are you, how are you starting that? What are you looking for? Is the feeling important, like we talked about last time?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking for is no yard work, first of all.
We can help you, Raul.
This is a soft pitch for Kyle, by the way.
My family is like, we're all gamers, so it's like indoor.
We have Cat 6 in every room.
Ooh, he's selling.
Raul's grinning from ear to ear.
And then also, honestly, like things like open space for sure is a big one, because we spend so much time in the living room, like doing gaming, watching media, and then also, it's really funny actually, but we actually don't even watch TV in our living room that much.
Yeah.
We just are in there all the time hanging out. So that's really important to me. Is just having smaller bedrooms and like a bigger open space.
Yeah.
Is really big for
me. Are you identifying the floor plan?
That's perfect. We are several communities. Raul, how much time you got today?
I see it in your head, like you're just like thinking of
the Rolodex of plans is going.
But going back to what you were talking about, right? That's the way it used to work. I'd have to imagine what you know, how you live in your home. Whereas if we were on a FaceTime call today, I'd be like, well, you know, turn the camera around, let me see this living room, let me see, you know, where you game and what you need and your setup and
then also definitely you know, I've been working remote actually for a few years now.
Yeah.
But that's also now that my wife was working remote as well, and my daughter's doing remote school.
Yeah.
That definitely is like, we have no room. Yeah. So that's one of the other things that
your dining room table has wheels on it, right?
So we learned that last week. I forgot. That's right.
You put wheels on. He was really proud. That was his project.
Really
That's
proud.
Awesome.
He was
like
I had like the Home Depot like intro in my head, or the commercial, you know, like the whole time.
Did you have a little bell on with your tools in it?
Good Lord.
Good for you for trying.
Yeah. So we had to decide.
For sure.
We had to decide, you know, like, do we want like a dining room table or a workspace?
Yeah.
So we went for a workspace
or a cart or something.
Yeah, so we basically have a cart for our dining room table.
It literally has a cart.
It folds, and it's about this wide.
Yeah.
When it folds, and then you just, you know, you put the sides up, and it also when it folds, there's drawers on each side. There's 6 total.
Oh, wow.
So it's super compact, and it fits like in the little area between our living room and dining room. It just fits perfect right there when it's folded. And then whenever we want to actually eat like a bigger dinner, we unfold it. And then that's where the wheels came in, is we actually installed some little wheels on it so that way we can roll it wherever we need it to. So
yeah. It's very convenient.
It's pretty cool.
This is, but to your point,
I'm proud.
And to your point, you know, you know, it's my son and I, and we live in a gorgeous historic home in downtown. We're not going to be there come the first of the new year.
Yeah.
I can't function with a child in school at the kitchen table while I'm working from home. And like Kyle said,
because you talk on the phone so loud.
I'm naturally loud. We know this.
We're on Zoom calls frequently, and I see Carter going into the fridge and getting something. And he's just wandering around the background. Hi, Mom.
I think to our point earlier about somebody, and it would be brilliant to clip together the 2020 work at home moment.
Yes.
Lenders. I was on a very important call with a CEO of a largely public traded that. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you know, so I'm the only female in the group and everyone's in their blocks on the Zoom. Here comes this child with blood all over his face as if he's just been, you know, like Eddie or what's Jason is running after him, and he had lost a tooth screaming while blood's coming out. And I looked at all the gentlemen and I said, well, welcome to 2020.
Yeah. Still kicking.
Oh my goodness. But to that point, you know, and to your point, it's forcing people who love their home. I love my home. It doesn't function. Not so, in our current environment.
And I could tell you a year ago, if you tried to pull her out of that house, there's no, it wasn't going to happen.
Kyle's enjoyed the fire pit in the backyard. Right. He knows.
I'm shocked to hear that you're moving.
I know.
Well, to your point, that's what's happened. There's this whole market that we weren't. I mean, we're advertising to them, but they'll tell you, no, I'm good, and all of a sudden, overnight, I'm not good.
Well, because once you plant that seed, that you know, they already know they don't have the space they need, and then you start planting that seed and go, wait a minute, you know, they're building houses that have multiple workrooms and you know that
School
type of
rooms,
space.
workout rooms.
Exactly. Workout rooms is another really good one.
Yeah.
Gaming capability, bandwidth,
Zoom rooms.
The workout thing is definitely you know, a big deal now. You know, people are asking us to, you know, finish out their garage spaces and so that they can, you know, actually use it, you know, for their gym. And
the garage gym has been resurrected.
It has
officially resurrected.
Unless you live in the Herd home, which I had a private tour yesterday, and it looks like an explosion of Halloween in its highest level that's coming to life in a few weeks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So my wife is,
we're going to have to cover this on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother story. She's gone crazy with Halloween, but
it's quite a bit. But to your point, you know, the storage, the workout room, you know, and that back to our last podcast and Daryl Patterson mentioning they are seeing people asked to turn that third bedroom into a fitness room. And it makes sense. You don't want to go to the, you know, right now. It's not to say it won't change, but you don't want to go and if I'm working from home and I can walk to the third bedroom versus walking to the, you know, driving to the gym all day long.
No mask.
Right.
Yeah,
Productivity again.
I also think like what happened with Peloton where they brought the gym to your home, like that's going to happen with school. I think that schools are going to be affected permanently. I mean, that's
I think
what
everything is.
I think everything is, but you know, like for sure, I think that's something that people didn't even account for at all. Like having a space, because like my daughter yesterday was like, you know, Dad, can we like after school's done, can we go somewhere? Because I've been in my room.
They get the wiggles.
And I'm like,
righteously
welcome to my
so.
world. Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing this is.
I'll give you guys a real time stat. So my son is, I held till the last influx of children was going to his particular ISD. And in that last Monday, we had to fill in a form of the remaining 38 in his grade block. There's 4 different blocks in fifth grade. The parents submitted, will I go back and this third last attempt, or am I going to continue to stay remote, or am I going to do both? And the results came back 50-50. I was shocked. Yeah, I anticipated more going in, but I think to Raul's point, we're going to see more people that have adapted, and with the teachers doing a phenomenal job on Zoom and then intertwining some sort of activity. Why not? And I understand, you know, every parent's perception on that, but for a builder, you know, that's an upcoming trend.
It is. So when you walk into our division office, it's very different. We went to shifts, and going back to the productivity, we found that, you know, one of the things that is such a beating for people is traffic, right? I mean, I'm talking to some Austin people, so I know you guys are
heavy sigh.
But to be able to eliminate that completely and ask an employee, hey, I'll eliminate that from your life and I'll give you some flexibility, but I'm going to need, you know, 110%. I'd tell you, our numbers will show you it's 150%. You almost have to say, okay, now listen, you have to work at home. You have to live at home too. Like you got to turn it off.
And that's tough.
And have balance.
At our house it is.
Yeah, it is. Because it's
really
there.
Tough.
And you can just.
Always there.
Yeah.
And I think that the general consumer is now aware of that. And if you let it happen, you know, you're answering emails and phone calls. Used to be maybe 6, 7 o'clock, but now it's 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And, you know, you'll have clients that'll email you and they need something.
Well, in
Right
in the same breath, though, you know, to your point on balance, you know, because we're doing that, I think you, and I by no means am predicting this, but it's something that could be possible, is I'm working longer and harder and more focused. Am I going to a 4-day work week? Because I'm working 10 hours, and wish. In that, are we going to see, you know, the American road trip continue, the camping, the family? And that's a positive,
rewarding thing to see that. You know, national parks were at capacity still, you know, and so many people are doing all of these things, at least
getting out, finally.
Getting out. I mean,
the family unit starts to come back together, and it's, you know, I think it's part of a positive of this.
I think that's an Austin thing, period. People move there to get out. In Dallas, I just noticed immediately in my community, like kids outside playing. And I was like, this is interesting. It's very different than
what are these children doing?
Of course,
they may have been kicked out and locked out, which could be the other side of that. But you know, it's healthy, right? And I think when you look at psychology and you know, you made the point, you know, it's like, Dad, can we go somewhere? I've been locked in a room. That social component we'll have to beef that up because of you know, the electronic component. That's kind of all of us, the whole. Now we're looking at how much time we're on, you know, the phone. Now we're on a laptop. Now our children are.
But I think we're at least appreciating that real meaningful interaction again. And I think that's, again, another silver lining because, look, I mean, social media certainly has its pluses. You know, you guys know it's not my favorite thing, but
he always disclaims that.
I know, I always do. But they're doing a phenomenal job at helping me with it. But you know, it's important, but it's not, majority of the time, it's not meaningful interaction, you know, and I think if you're able to have it, you know, whether it's a Zoom call or even better face-to-face, whether it's over the fence or something like that, I think
your neighbors
we're appreciating that more now, you know, and that's a good thing.
Think of all those, a lot of those families too, like when everything first started, the pandemic, a lot of people were, I mean, I'm fortunate to have a pretty good situation in my house. Like we like each other, you know, kind of. You know?
It's usually a positive.
But, you know, I'm hoping that, you know, a lot of these people too, like having to spend time together have kind of worked a lot of things out.
For sure.
Know?
That's a great point.
I mean, it feels like it because I think that was kind of the general, like, I don't know, kind of thing going around was just like, man, a lot of people are having a hard time because they don't get along.
Burnt out too from the pace that we were living at that time.
And it was different. I mean, I remember my wife, like she had a kind of a freak out because it was like, my wife is just like, constantly like hustling. So it was really hard for her just to stay home and get paid because it's like, I don't, you know, she's
changing
just like, no way, I can't do that, you know? So I'm hoping a lot of that stuff worked out as well. I don't know how it is with you guys, but.
Well, still that psychology I've noticed on Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams, whatever you use, people changing the background.
Yeah.
Because and there's this kind of psychological, like, I don't want people to know I'm home, but we're all home.
It's
I'm going to put a background and getting used to like, it's okay. We know you're home. Like, that goes back to the dog. So I think you mentioned culture. You know, one of the things I'm very grateful for at Meritage is it's brought us together. We just, the dog barking we had a toddler come in with, you know, a whole thing of, you know, it's life. It's what you're
I'm sorry, the whole thing of what?
Well, I had Cheerios, you know, and the mom's like, oh my, hold on one second. You know, it's like,
it's okay.
And normally you would have been mortified and we're like, hey, it's life. It's just where we're at. It's 2020.
We're a little bit more, just a little bit more connected because of it.
Right.
I totally agree with you because at first when my daughter would walk in or the dog would be like, and now it's just like, they're just.
It is.
Well, we were on a call the other day and we're like, hey, where's Timothy? Bring him in.
Yeah.
Like, you want to see him, you know? So we say hi. And so I think, you know, parents are connected to their kids. Their kids see their coworkers on a call and they see what they do. And because a lot of times it was separate, you know, when's the last time your kid asked you what you did? I'm sure yours does. He's there with you. He's experiencing it. But when it's at the office, it's so separate.
There's a disconnect.
And then, you know, things have come back. I mean, I can remember playing Uno with my parents till the wee out, like tournaments. And now every Saturday they're like, we want to come over and you know, my kids love it. They're like, oh my gosh, you know, Pawpaw's coming. We're going to kill him. Like, this is our day, you know, so I don't think any of that, you know, was going on before. And now to your point, like we've we value that, you know, a lot of things that we lost there for a period of time.
And I think we FaceTime more than we call. I know in our house, we used to avoid it. We would text, you make the call, you're like, oh, here, you know.
Very true.
That's a
now,
really good point.
Every morning we FaceTime and my son you know, so one question we haven't asked and we haven't thought to ask based on what we're talking about, and I'm curious if Meritage is pivoting any way on this. With the kids being outside more, with the neighbor interaction more, with the sense of community, are the way that we're planning and developing community amenities changing?
For sure. You know, to have wide open spaces, to make sure right now, I mean, there used to be communities that would have amenities. There were communities that didn't have amenities. I would tell you, moving forward, the not having them is not an option because people utilize them. They need them at this point. And, even outdoor spaces, I'll say, you know, outdoor living areas have become a staple.
That was a big thing from Daryl last week. I mean, the staycation is a real thing now. I mean, it kind of, it was a little bit of a tongue in cheek before, but now it's become a vital part because people don't want to hop on a plane and, you know, much less try to travel somewhere that won't let us in the first place.
Exactly. So. Good point. Yeah.
Well, and I would
We're
say
knocking
the
on
new
Europe
ones
stores.
feel like resorts. You know, when you look at the new amenity centers that we build, and like, this is a far cry from, you know, my Centex days where there was a pool and, you know, maybe some patio chairs. Like, it's legit, like, you know, amazing outdoor lit fire pits everywhere.
Did we even have a pool at Cypress Creek?
I don't think we did.
Last phase?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a community off Lakeline Boulevard in Cedar Park that sold like hotcakes. But to your point,
very good to me.
It wasn't a selling point, whereas now it is. And I know it was, but I think we'll start to Kyle's point, we'll start to transition how it functions from a development standpoint.
For sure. Yeah, it's a must. And, you know, we're seeing, and, you know, we're more innovative with those spaces and how do we get families to interact within those spaces and be together, and even communities. You know, I see that. I see people that didn't know their neighbor before knows their neighbor, and they talk to their neighbor and they check on their neighbor. And, you know, hey, I was in Austin a few weeks ago. I just bumped it. Yeah.
What?
And
we're done.
But, you know, they were like, hey, we didn't, you know, we didn't see you, you know, whole weekend, everything okay, you know, and that's just not something that would have happened.
Which is really important. You know, we had a conversation with a very good friend and a wounded vet about mental health and all that. And I think that being able to just check in is so critically important. And it's really good to see that people are, hey, you know what? I noticed you were out of town or you were gone. I mean, that's real human empathy that is completely the antithesis of what we're hearing in the media and all that kind of stuff. And it's great to see.
My neighbor, it's worth telling based on Aaron and yours podcast. It was the second week into COVID, and my neighbor went and left notes on everyone's door. And for the next 3 months, every Friday and Saturday night at sunset, we would howl at the moon. It sounds insane, but you were howling, and then it would go the next street, and it went about 7 blocks down, and then the wave would come back. Wow. And it was a reminder that you weren't alone. Wow. And it was crazy. But that's the point you guys are saying. It was that, and it wasn't during the week because we all knew during the week but on the weekends where people, you know, are you okay? And let me go howl. Right. I mean, I live in Clarksville or hippies maybe, and we howl.
Very cool idea. But you see that everywhere. It's not uncommon in my community. I live in a cul-de-sac, and people will come down there and set up horseshoes, and it's not just their family. They're actually getting their neighbors together, and, you know, it's something we grew up with it.
We did, like all of us.
But, you know, it's a better world, you know, because of that. So looking at the positive things that have come out of all this.
So before we wrap, a couple quick questions. So tell me, for those of our sales agent friends out there, either aspiring or whatnot, what recommendation, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to get into the new home sales market?
Yeah, so you can write me a big check, make it out to Kyle Duran. Be very generous. So I'll tell you, you know, I think the best way to get in, it is a tight industry, and you hear about that a lot. We're people, and my salespeople love to tell about what they do every day. And so if I was someone wanting to get in the industry, I would literally go out to a model home on a weekend, and I would bring cookies, bring something, you know,
tacos.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, definitely tacos.
Always tacos.
And, y'all have better tacos in Austin than we do up here. So, you know, I think being a part of that and sitting in there and just interacting with that sales agent, that they tend to bring you in. They're like, oh, this person, you know, came out and spent time with me this weekend and asked me questions and kind of watched me take customers through the process. You know, we have a training program, so we actually are one of the builders that allows people. So part of the shift in what we've seen in our industry is really getting people from outside the industry to come in, because then we can mold them and train them.
Pacesetter does that a lot. There's a lot more builders that are doing that.
So you get, I would say probably 40% of my sales force did not sell homes before. So you get much more attention. They're so thankful for the opportunity and what you've given them. So, and then, you know, you don't kind of deal with, well, at Builder X, we did it this way, or we had this kind of thing. It's just that it's all they know. Right. So, but I would say, I think it's very difficult on the outside looking in to go to Indeed.com or go to the website. All those things need to happen. Go
secret shop.
Yeah,
you know, literally. And that's what I've told people is, you know, just go to the model home, visit the communities. You can tell when you've got a really passionate sales agent, and that'll tell you a lot about how that company is to work for. I mean, if they love it, if they're excited, or if they're the same old square footage. Bedrooms, bathrooms.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd say the culture of the company that you're going to work for is important. You know, it is very, very different depending on what builder you're with. And to a certain extent, you know, Meritage Dallas is very different than Meritage Austin. I think they're both great, but the culture is different for sure. And the leadership's different and how they approach things. So you want to make sure that's a fit. You know, the industry's difficult. I think everyone feels like, you know, we show up and show pretty things and people throw money at us. We work hard hours. We're rewarded, you know, really well. But you got to love the people that you work with. You gotta have some fun. We have a lot of fun at Meritage. We make a lot of money, and we treat people really well. And that being our customers and, you know, the people that work with us every day. So I would say if you're in that sales office and you don't get that vibe, move on. Go find a different place, because there's something's not right, you know, there. So that would be my first step. Go out on a weekend, hang out, ask lots of questions, feel the vibe a little bit, then go through, you know, the process of applying. And then I think the other side, there's all kinds of temporary agencies that are out there. You get really great experience doing that. You kind of see, you get an inside look at the builders because you're there. So you'll know real quick if every customer that came through the door is really upset because no one's calling them back, or it's like,
there's a few of those
may
out
not
there.
be who I want to work for, or if people are coming in and, you know, I tell my agents all the time, you know, the sign of a good sales agent is you walk into their office and, you know, customers are bringing them food and Starbucks and, you know, all the time.
Those are your net promoters right there.
And you've got a community that's cohesive there, and they take care of them. That's what you want to be a part of.
So last question, let's flip it to our side, the mortgage side. What advice would you have for loan officers that want to work with builders?
Yeah, I think so. Here's what I'll tell you. You know, almost every builder, at least publicly traded, is going to have a preferred lending partner. I was a retail mortgage person myself, and understood that challenge, and it is challenging.
And even the private and regional ones, everybody already has that relationship.
Right.
We value, though, I'll tell you, the creative, lenders that are out there, and they're like, listen, give me a shot. I may be able to work something out, or I may have an underwriter that looks at it differently. It's interesting. It's almost like appraisers. You can send 8 appraisers out to the same house. You're going to get a different value, right?
True.
Lenders all come at it with a different experience and different portfolio and different. So I think I would say that a lot of people, we use, a lot of other lenders, and we let our, preferred lender know, hey, we're not willing to let deals walk out the door because we can't do them. Yeah. And that doesn't mean we're cheating on you. That doesn't mean, it just means that as a team, we've got a goal to reach, and we've got a customer that needs something a little different. So I would say, again, go out to those, I'm going to get in trouble. It's rare that you see a loan officer out on the weekend.
Yes.
Brian Hurd, do you speak that truth consistently?
You know darn well I do.
Empathetically?
She knows darn well I do. I mean, that's one of the things we talk about is number one, the milk route is incredibly important. You know, and it doesn't mean you have to go out there and say great rates, great products, and close on time.
Yeah.
Everybody can do that. Go out there, just like you were saying, going out there, getting to know the community, getting to know the sales agent. Why do you like working for Meritage? What's your favorite model? What's your best-selling home? What is your inventory? Because if I'm a sales agent, I'm sure you guys see lenders every single day. Well,
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I mean, they're just knocking on your doors.
Yeah.
But how many of them come back on week 2 or week 3 or week 4? So if I'm a sales agent, I'm not going to really give any time a day until I start seeing that same person come over and over and over again.
Yeah, and be authentically engaged.
Authentic, yes. I mean, have that meaningful interaction.
Yes.
It's the same thing we hear from realtors, right? They're like, hey, I have a family. I have a name. It's not just, don't just call me for a deal. Hey,
love it.
Jenny, how's your kid doing? How's Little League doing? What's going on? And I think the other side too is, tell me, I think the best question a lender can ask someone, or at least my sales agents, is tell me about the 3 deals that got away that we couldn't get, that we couldn't get financed for whatever reason. Yeah. Did you understand? Do you understand why, it didn't get done? A lot of, financing is scary for salespeople. They just, they don't speak the language. They don't understand it.
And they've heard different bits and pieces.
It's intimidating.
Yeah.
So that's it's like, hey, if I could get you 3 a month, that got away, or one of the 3, right? Yeah. That's going to change your income, and I'll educate
for both
you.
Sides,
You can ask me, especially being from the outside. I think there's less intimidation. Hey man, if you got a question that you feel like it's a dumb question, ask me. Yeah. I will pick up the phone and answer it and help you. And the more a sales agent feels comfortable with that lender and not feeling like I should know this, but I don't, but I'm afraid to ask, or the education side's important. I mean, it's part of why I went into the retail side, because I wanted to understand, how does this work? What is an underwriting turn time? What is a condition? How do we do that? And I'll tell you, I sold more homes once I got my hands around it. Yeah. Most of them don't want to go do that, right? That's a big step. So if I can have someone that walks in on a Saturday morning before my customers are there, and it's like, hey, let me help you. Tell me about the deals that got away, that they'll call you.
I've had loan officers that have literally suggested, you know what, go in, bring your daughter. I mean, when I was an originator, that's what I would do, because she's with me. Sure. And, it's not that you have to go in a suit and tie. It's just show up. The fact that you're there, and help that she's just a cute little girl at the time, but it's being there and stopping by. It doesn't have to be anything formal or fancy.
And that's being authentic.
It's being authentic. It absolutely is. And Saturdays and Sundays can be some of the best times. Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays are usually the days off, depending on what builder it is, and Mondays are usually contract days and pipeline meetings,
sales
and all that.
meeting days.
Friday's Friday's not a bad one, but the weekend's almost your surefire way to do it. And if a sales agent, you can tell me if I'm wrong, if they see that somebody took the time, whether it was on their way home from church or school or wherever, just to stop in. Say hello.
Just stop in and say hello. And I think, sometimes when you're in the model home, you feel alone, right? Yeah. And when the market shifts on you, you're like, okay, is this me? What's going on with my traffic? Yeah. Well, you guys have a different perspective, right? So sometimes it's just, hey man, how you doing? We saw our business dip a little bit this week. We normally run 30 apps a week. We ran 15. Is that what you're seeing?
Really good.
Sometimes just feeling that, like, oh God, it's not just me. Yeah. Is again, you're developing that relationship. And then I'll say, to your point, coming back the next week or the next week just to say hi. Hey dude, I was just checking on you. Yep. I run by here all the time. How you doing today? How's your business? How's your life? How's your family? Everybody healthy? Is the door locked today or is it open?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on in your world? We're all people. You know, I'll tell you, they spend a lot of hours in that office alone. So
they need that. They want that
to have that connection. And going back to, we've lost that connection, right? We're not with people a lot, and we watch that. I actually have a profile on every one of my agents, and I know the extroverts from the introverts, and the extroverts are struggling, you know, right now. They want to be out in the bars, and they want to be, you know, with people, and so that's a really good way, you know, just come by and check on them and have.
I'm glad you said that, you know, and hopefully some of my loan officers will be listening, because I mean, it's, and I think most of them agree and they know that they need to do it, but it's one of the toughest things to get them to do, you know, and usually what I try to recommend is, you know, how many communities do you have in town here?
We've got about 35.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I didn't know it was that high, but obviously, you know, asking a loan officer to drive to 35 communities every week is not going to happen.
Right.
But you don't need to do that. You just need to find one or two that are convenient to you and start building from there. Yep. You know, you got to start somewhere. Okay. I said 2 questions. I'm going to ask one. Sure. Is there anything really obnoxious that lenders do that just drives your people nuts?
You know, I'll say 2 things. Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Get in front of the problems. You know, hey, you know, if you can turn a deal in 30 days, you can turn a deal in 30 days. Yeah. We all know today that's difficult, right? So I would say that on the business side, if you'll just do what you say, if you'll just execute the way you've, you know, and if something comes up, be the first one on the phone. Don't send me an email. Yeah. Don't send me a text. Get on the phone and go, hey, this is kind of, you know, where we talked about some things go, you know, wrong or outside of our control. Here's what's going to happen, and here's how I'm going to fix it. I think the other thing is, you know, the proverbial, I just dropped my business card off with a cookie and hi, and it's really awkward, and then I never see you again. That's
breakfast taco delivery people. I do not, you know, hey, we all love breakfast tacos, but it cheapens what you do, and it's not. That again,
it's hard to say no to someone that you have a relationship with. If I know your daughter's name, if I know your family, it's really difficult for me to ignore you. I can ignore the taco guy all day long, right? And so
you can tell who he is, who he or she is. You know, there's a reason y'all have your offices that have glass, and you can see who's coming in and who's coming out. I mean, you can see it from the moment they get out of the car, and then they're starting like they're busy, and it's a chore, and we don't want it to be a chore.
It's the same thing that we do in our recruiting. I've always been taught, you recruit when you don't need people. Go out and start those relationships. Go out and take that Beezer agent, Mike Sander, to lunch, or
he threw it
whoever,
down.
Right? Go spend time with them over and over and over and over. And then when finally the time comes that you need something, there's a relationship there. I would say it's the same thing with lending. Go in and don't ask for anything. Just hey, I want to meet you. I've heard, you know, sales agents have some egos. I've heard you're killing it out here. You know, tell me about that. Why do you think you're killing it? You know, why do you think
non-transactional, non-sales?
Yeah,
you're building that. I'm so glad he said that.
And I think
Brian's going to go on a tangent next.
Well, I think I've been a loan officer, right? And it's so easy when your pipeline's full. I don't need to do that today. I'm going to go home. But 10 minutes with that person, you know, because your pipeline's not always going to be full. It will if you go build those relationships constantly.
And now is such a good time, and we're trying to get them out as much as we can, because as much as business is great, you know, there's turmoil in the industry. You know, there's a lot of there's bandwidth issues and whatnot. So going out now and developing those relationships, eventually the pain becomes enough to say, hey, you know what, it's time to look at a new partner. So, okay. Last question, I promise.
No problem.
Predictions for tomorrow.
The last.
The most important.
Wow, that's a tough one.
What's the spread? What's the spread?
You know, we're coming off a loss, so I think we have something to prove for sure. Yes. We need to step up and get it done.
Should I cue the music?
Do it.
You can start it low. There you go. Okay. All right.
Wow, it's hard for me to come up with. I'll ask you. What's your figure?
So, I think that neither team has shown any proclivity for defense. So I'm going to say 42-35 Texas.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be a high score. I think the offense will be amazing. I think, you know, the defense and the secondary, like you said, neither one has proved that they're as solid as they could be. So
Rattler is a really good QB, but he does have issues and he does throw picks. So I will be really disappointed if we don't finally get some kind of a interception going.
Yeah.
I think first half. So anyway.
I'd like to say two things. You just reminded me of Howie, sportscaster, total mode, and then the second is hook 'em, baby.
Hook 'em.
Hook 'em, baby.
Kyle, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for joining us. Really appreciate your time,
inviting
and look forward to getting you a little bit better.
Good to see you
Thank
again.
you, Sarah.
You
Of
got it.
course.
All right.
Cool. Let's sign off on our.
I was like,